So in the first video that I made about teasers and DFI bets, I explained why it's better to have an underdog in a low-scoring game because the points are worth a lot more. But what I didn't really touch on is why that doesn't really apply when you're picking favorites. And so I wanted to provide a couple of examples here and explain why you would want a team in an up-tempo game. So if you take a look at the two games that I've put here, we have UNC minus 15 at home against NC State, and we have Virginia minus 15 at home against Wake Forest. On the surface, these look like the same games, but in reality, if you were going to take the underdog, you'd want Wake Forest, and if you're going to take the favorite, you'd want UNC for a teaser. And the reason for that is because UNC averages 73.9 possessions per game, and NC State averages 72.3 a game. So you assume, based on that, about 73 possessions each between these two teams for the game. Let's say the over-under is about 160 points. So the expected score is 89-71. So I can write that right here. 89 for UNC, 71 for NC State. That's what Vegas is expecting. If UNC or Virginia jumps out to a lead early in the game like they're supposed to, there's a good chance that they'll cover their 15-point spread. But that's not what we're worried about. So if we're taking a 9-point teaser, then the real spread goes from minus 15 to minus 6. Once we're talking about a minus 6 spread, now, that's pretty ugly 6, but you get the idea. Now all we need them to do is be able to come back, even if they fall behind early. So if Wake Forest or NC State surprisingly jumps out to an early lead, you're probably not going to cover the 15-point spread regardless of which team you took, but you're really just worried about covering the 6-point spread, so all they need to do is win by 7 or more. Let's say that at halftime, NC State and Wake Forest are both winning by 10 in their respective games. If NC State is up by 10, UNC has significantly more possessions to come back. We estimated 73 possessions in the game, so there's about 36 remaining possessions, 36.5 possessions for UNC, the better team, to prove they're better. With 36 and the next 36 and a half possessions, they will outplay NC State. But if you're counting on Virginia, now Virginia is down to about 31.5. So UNC is going to have 5 more chances to score buckets and prove that they are the better team. And in the long run, it'll pay off. UNC will more than likely cover the minus 6 when trailing by 10 in the first half against NC State. Then Virginia would cover minus 6, trailing by 10 against Wake Forest. Now you could argue that Wake Forest is less likely to go up by 10 on Virginia, but with the volatility of basketball, sometimes any team can get up. We don't think that it's more likely, so much more likely, that NC State gets up by 10 than Wake Forest, that it's worth locking in Virginia. And that's not to say you never want to pick a team like Virginia. If the matchup is fantastic for Virginia, you think they're going to crush Wake Forest, then taking the minus 6 is not a bad idea at all. They'll most likely cover. But when you're talking about which team is the safest play, and we recently had a pick like this where the team, Notre Dame, shot 25% in the first half in a recent teaser pick that we had them in. We had them we thought they were a much better team, and they were down 10 at half precisely. And we thought they'll come back because they're the better team, but the difference is we had them as an underdog, so we had the points on our side, and we didn't think the game would be fast-paced enough that it would totally get away from them. And they ended up covering the teasered spread, even though they played horribly. And that's the idea with an underdog. You want a slow game where even if they play terribly, it'll probably not turn into a blowout. But in a fast-paced game, you want the favorite because they have so many more possessions to outplay the lesser team. So hopefully that makes sense. Comment, message me on Twitter if you have any questions about that. I know a couple of our followers so far had asked us, why are we taking high over-under games? And the reason is that we're taking favorites, that we're teasering down how much they need to win by. So even if they fall behind early, they should still outplay their opponent and eventually cover the smaller spread. So that's all the summary of what's behind that. So hope you enjoy it.